Welcome to Unapologetically Sensitive, a place to find connection and a sense of belonging, where you can learn, relate, laugh, and maybe even live a bolder, brighter life. I'm your host, Patricia Young. This is a weekly podcast where we talk about sensitivity and the richness that it adds, the strengths we have because of our sensitivity, and some of the challenges it poses as well. The information in this podcast is not a substitute for help from a licensed mental health professional. Hey there, to the creatives, healers, sensitives, and deep thinkers. Welcome. How are you doing? We are entering, into week 8, 9 of the global pandemic. I'm recording this on May 22nd, and I think our California shelter in place started about March 23rd. I keep messing up how many days it is, but it's been a long time and it's getting to all of us. I want to talk to you today about regrets that I have, how I'm doing, what I'm processing, and I also want to talk to you. So this is partially in response to bonus episodes 73 and 74. If you're listening to this in the future, you may not be able to find those episodes. I may take them down. I really haven't decided what I'm going to do. But I'm having some regrets about recording it in reactivity. I'm going to talk to you about that. I also want to talk to you about with COVID and some of the states opening up and us having to make decisions about what we need to do to feel safe. I want to talk about what happened when my kids and their girlfriends came home and how I really didn't do a great job of taking care of myself and the things that came up and how I handled it in a very, very messy way. But it ended up being really good modeling, and I had a really surprising outcome. And as I'm talking to more and more people, we often have a hard time taking care of ourselves, setting limits, asking for what we want. We don't want to be that person. And I handled it in a really messy, awkward way. I let things get too far. I was kind of ready to withdraw. And so this was my final hoorah saying, hey, I didn't do a great job, and now I'm going to withdraw. And like I said, there was an unusual outcome. So that's kind of what you can expect in this episode. Let's go back to bonus episodes 73 and 74. If I could go back and do it again, it's really kind of hard to say this, to play the coulda, woulda, shoulda. What I regret is that because I was feeling so hurt and angry, is I really had a need for justice, and that I really wanted the person that I felt injured by to hear my side, to know how hurt I was. I was wanting other people to know how unfair I felt that this situation was. I have to say that within a week's time, I was really able to let it go and move on. And I really think that that's because I allowed myself to really stand in what my feelings were, to fully express them and not minimize it. And when I recorded bonus episodes 73 and 74, I listened to those episodes over and over and over, and it really helped to validate my perspective and my story. I found it very healing. I found it very comforting. I found it very validating because, as I shared, I kept going into doubt around it. It's interesting now. I don't want to go back and listen to them because I feel like I did it from a place of reactivity. My friend Dara made a really interesting comment, and it's really stuck with me. My gift as a creative is verbal processing. And so when I'm feeling things very passionately, one of the ways that I express my creativity is verbally, and I have the gift of having a podcast. Maybe it's not a gift, I don't know. If I were a painter, a poet, a sculptor, there's a really good chance that when I was in that angry, hurt place, I would have created a piece of art that would have reflected the hurt and the anger and the disappointment and the frustration. And somebody looking at it might feel those feelings, but wouldn't know what the story was behind it. And then when I come to a place of resolution, I might create a piece of artwork that showed more peace and harmony and healing and growth. And again, somebody looking at whatever that other form of artwork would feel those feelings, but wouldn't know the story behind it. The gift and the challenge of being a verbal processor and being a writer or having a podcast is that you hear what the story is and what my experience is in that moment. And the truth is, our perceptions change, our feelings change, our moods change, and there's something about having something in verbal form or written form that I feel like it holds me to it and it keeps something permanent And there are times when I don't feel really comfortable with that. And because I recorded out of reactivity, I'm a little uncomfortable, and I feel like I just don't know. I do think that I was able to move through it as quickly as I did because I really allowed myself to have a voice. And especially when I had a couple days where I just felt like the gremlins were just at me 100%, I really took time to talk back to them. I had to do it a number of times a day. It really helped me to show up for myself. It was very healing for myself. Had I not recorded the podcast, had I not talked about it, maybe I would still be struggling with it. And I did not give myself shame over processing or ruminating. Like, I just knew that this was something that affected me very deeply, and I needed to do what I needed to do to move through it. There is a chance that maybe my regret is unwarranted. I don't know. I'm still sorting through this. Where I'm at right now, though, is I really just want to focus on my healing, what I need to do. And honestly, within a week, I really felt like whatever happened with this other person, it's not my business. It's not my story. It's not my focus. Whatever other people think about this situation or think about this person, again, not my focus, not my business. My job is to focus on me and my healing and what felt like reactive pushing away at the time. And I'm still having a little bit of that. Really feels now about, where am I going to get my nurturing? Where do I want to invest my time and energy? Where am I going to feel seen and heard and valued? And who has the capacity to really meet me where I'm at and to love and honor how I show up in the world? Obviously, nobody's going to do that 100% of the time, and it's ultimately up to me to do that. But I can either get frustrated and angry about the relationships where people can't meet me where I'm at, or I can focus on the relationships that do that, and that relationships that are in my life that have limitations, again, to just allow those limitations to be there and focus on what it is that I need. And I feel really strongly about this. One of the kind of painful but positive outcomes of this is, not everybody's going to love me, appreciate me. I'm not going to be a good fit for everybody. People aren't going to value what I do. I've had this with the podcast I've shared. I've reached out to a number of people to be on the podcast. As a therapist and coach, I have a very unique style. It doesn't work for everybody. And instead of feeling bad and going into comparison, I really have been affirming, like, the people that are supposed to be in my life are going to be in my life. And it's okay that I'm not going to be everybody's favorite, and other people aren't my favorite. And it's really helped me to just show up and be the best me that I can, and to really focus on not comparing and thinking that I should be like everybody else, or I want to be liked by everybody else, or I want to be honored or acknowledged by other people. We're just not going to be for everybody. And if that's where my energy is, it's really going to drain me. And I have to say, I'm pretty depleted right now. I don't want to say too much about this, but I met with a therapist. Again, I'm not sure what's going to happen. At the end of the session, I asked a question. I may not have been very skillful about how I asked the question. And I got a response. It felt like the whole point of me doing this type of therapy was to work on my attachment and abandonment issues, and to really figure out how to not get so activated and to show up for myself even more than I've been doing. And then it felt like it created a little bit more of an attachment injury. And what I believe is, even if I was not skillful in asking the question, or what I asked the therapist couldn't have provided, I do think that there's a way that had the therapist been more skillful, could have attended to the relationship and attuned with what the need was that I was having, and could have focused on that so that I didn't end up feeling like it was another rupture. And so I'm tired. I'm just tired, because I can go so deep and so fast in a therapeutic relationship because I want to grow. I want to heal. I've done, years of therapy. I just felt like that was a really big investment. And then to be left with having to hold space for my own experience and to do more healing, I really was expecting somebody else to be able to hold that space for me. It may be repairable. It may not. I don't know. Again, I want to be really clear that I'm just sharing what my experience is. I'm not blaming anybody. During COVID, It's hard. It's hard for everybody. And I'm probably doing things that are offending people. I'm not showing up for people the way that they want me to show up. I'm having that experience. I mean, this is just how it is right now. So, what I really didn't say very much in episodes 73 and 74 is we're all doing the best that we can. And this is just an unprecedented time. And so how can we have compassion for ourselves, compassion for others, figure out what we need, tend to our own needs, and stay focused on that and not get too hung up in the injustices that are going on. So the other thing that I want to talk about, and this has just been coming up in the closed Facebook group. I've seen this theme with a couple of clients this week. I'm talking about it with some of my friends, is the difficulty that we can have in owning our reality, setting the boundaries that we need to, and especially with COVID. Cities are opening up and we may not be ready for that. And we may feel like we have needs that aren't being honored and respected. Now, my kids came home a couple weekends ago with their girlfriends. We sat down and we talked about what the boundaries were. And then when they came back, we didn't talk about it. And because for a period of 5 days, there were anywhere from 1 to 3 people in the house that aren't normally here, in addition to my son and my husband and myself. And they were here to celebrate my husband's birthday. And what I didn't do was to sit down and reiterate what boundaries needed to be maintained. And every time something happened, I just kind of thought, I'm being picky, I'm being too specific, I'm the only one that needs this. And I just kind of kept shrugging stuff off because I can be very rigid and very controlling about things. And I just wanted to go with the flow. But what happened was by the time the last day rolled around, where it was day 5, not everybody had been here, but on day 5, my son and his girlfriend were here, and all of a sudden, I just was done. I was over. I wasn't even in a place where I could talk about it, try and work through things so that we could spend the day together. I just was going to tell them how poorly I managed it, what was going on, and then I was going to withdraw to my room for the day because I just felt like I got nothing left and I didn't take care of myself. So I went and talked to my mom first about all this because I just felt so overwhelmed, and I cried and I was angry and frustrated and left deciding that I was going to go talk to everybody and let them know what was going on. And I owned I didn't do a very good job of setting limits and letting you know what I needed. And I just kind of kept taking things on. Then all of a sudden it was just too much. And now I feel like I'm going to withdraw for the rest of the day. You didn't do anything wrong. My concern was that my son and his girlfriend won't want to come back because, mom goes off and pouts when she has too much, and that it wouldn't be fun for them to be here. And they're coming back this Friday because my twins are turning 20. And so they're going to come for the day and one night. And it was really nice that my husband said, well, let's talk about what we can do differently next time. And so we started to talk about, what were some of the things. And the truth is, everybody had done something that kind of violated what some of the rules were. And some of the things are hard. We're all facing new situations and having to set limits and figure things out that we've never had to do before. And a lot of this stuff is crazy. It's crazy that we have to make these decisions. And one of the things that made me really angry is there was a time when it felt like my husband did not distance from my son. And I haven't hugged my son in, 2 months, 2.5 months. And I feel like we're doing all this stuff and all I want to do is hug my kid. I just want to give my kid a hug. And I feel like my husband, not intentionally, was not using social distancing. And if he's going to do that, I may as well just go ahead and hug my kid. So we ended up having a talk. And again, this sense of too much. In our living room, we have seating for 5, and there's one seat that I like to sit in. And at the dining room table, there's one seat that I would like to reserve for me. And during the visit, somebody else sat in that seat. And then because they stay in my office, I bring my desk chair out to the living room. And then I was thinking, I really want that reserved for me. And then we have a chair on the front porch that I sit in. And that felt like that's too many things for me to have to sit in. It felt like, mom has to pee on everything. And that sense for me that that's too much to ask for. And what about everybody else? And how come other people can't sit in it? I don't have a definitive answer. And I'm not sure that we really resolved anything. But to be able to talk about that felt like that was too much to ask for. And for my kids to say, we really want to respect and honor what you need so that you feel comfortable. This stuff is hard. It's really hard, and it's going to push up against our stuff. And there are some areas where setting boundaries is very easy. It's very clear. And there are other areas like this. Man, it's just really hard. And I've talked to many of you who are going through something similar and trying to navigate, how do I walk through this? And I just want to validate that it's hard. And I did it in a messy, imperfect way. I was really concerned that I'd not said something that I was just going to kind of lose my cool. And I think it's very common for us that, one thing happens, another thing happens, another thing happens. We try and let it go. And then after a bunch of things happen, we often will blast people with all these details that we've held on to. And then people tell us, like, you don't let go of details. You don't ever forget stuff. I was so afraid I was going to start spouting off all these individual things that had rubbed me the wrong way. Thank goodness I didn't. And because I felt so seen and heard, and it made me mad that I was crying. It made me mad that I was mad. I mean, it's really hard when we go into judgment. We have judgment about judgment. And it's just where I was. And what I can say is I gave my family the gift of modeling imperfection, doing it in a messy, uncomfortable way. And what happened is I ended up spending the rest of the day with my kids, that we spent time together, we engaged, and I was able to ask them, how was that for you? Do you feel like you want to come back? Did it impact you? They were fine with it. And I think what we often imagine in our heads of how we're being unreasonable or we're being that person or we're being picky, I think other people sense that something's going on and they just want to kind of clear the air. And it was actually really sweet the night before. My other son, I had gone to the bedroom because I was just kind of having too much. And he asked if things were okay with me, and we had a really nice talk. And then his girlfriend had asked him if I was okay. And so the two of them came back and talked to me. And so again, I said, it's not your job to take care of me. I don't want to be the pouty mom. And sometimes I just don't know what to do. I just don't. And so I withdraw because it's the only way that I feel like I can take care of myself when I don't set limits and boundaries, or I just get too overwhelmed or too overstimulated and I don't know what to do. So it's not that we have to do this perfectly. It's not that we have to be skillful at it. It's okay to be messy. It's okay to be imperfect. And there are ways that we can model our limitations and we can talk about it, because what I really don't want is for any of my kids or their partners to feel like our house is an uncomfortable place to be because there's just unspoken feelings, or I get upset and I withdraw, or people have to tippy-toe around me. I want this to be a healthy, imperfect house where we're going to have bumps and we're going to be able to talk about it and work through it. So, how I would take this back to you and your life is, how are you feeling about things opening up? How are you feeling about boundaries? Like, my husband has to go into work this Friday to do some administrative stuff, and we've talked about what are the precautions that you're going to take? What is your company setting up for you? Because again, if we're working so hard to do social distancing at home and then he doesn't honor it at work because we just forget. This is new for all of us. We're used to being close to somebody, having them a pen, having them sign some paperwork, taking the pen back, holding the papers. We just don't think about this close contact, shaking someone's hand. So how do we create safety for ourselves? How do we open up discussion and knowing that we can have fear and hope together? We can have anger and resentment and open communication. And I think we go to this place where it has to be either or. So is it possible for me to have some reluctance about my husband going into work and to trust that we will work it out and we will figure it out? And I think that we think that it's one or the other. And often we are having mixed feelings, competing needs, and just being able to talk about it and name it. We don't always have to even come up with a solution for it, but just being seen and heard can be so validating and just kind of takes the charge out of things. If you're struggling, is there someone who you know has a similar philosophy to you, sees things similarly to you that you can get support from? How's your self-care? Right now we are doing the best that we can, and sometimes it's just harm reduction, that we're making choices that are not the best for us. And when we're able to gently move our body or do yoga, or if we need to rest, if we need to sleep, if we need to slow down, if we need to speed up, if we need to clean a little bit more, if we need to relax, if we need to connect with somebody, if we need more alone time, There's no blueprint for how we take care of ourselves, and it's really up to us to really take the best care that we can with ourselves. And if we can't take the best care and we can just do self-care, to let that be okay. If we need to ask for support, we can ask for support. I think this really is a time for us to just be as present as we can with ourselves. If you're able to spend time out in nature, to get outside, to put your feet in the grass or on the dirt in bare feet, if you can get out to the forest or where it's green. I know everybody's all over the world. It's raining in some parts of the world right now, that the weather is not always conducive to that. If it helps spend time with pets or music, whatever it is that brings you comfort and solace, we just need as much of that as we can get. And the other thing I've been hearing people talk about is like, there are parts about the COVID lifestyle that really honor my HS needs. I like working from home. I like that there's not as much traffic. I like that pressure of not having to go out and be around lots of people. I'm kind of relieved that we can't have big gatherings. That part of that is really honoring our needs as highly sensitive people, and the fear of returning back to how things were. I mean, I don't know if we can ever go back, but the thought of things opening up and resuming and kind of being caught up in a lifestyle that doesn't honor our needs can also feel really uncomfortable. And some people have expressed guilt about, like, I kind of like the COVID lifestyle. So whatever's going on for you is really okay. There is no right or wrong way to experience this. And I think for us to have as much compassion as we can for ourselves and other people. Some people are needing more space. Some people are needing less space. Some people are feeling much more conservative about how they're handling COVID. And other people are not having those concerns. And as long as our personal safety isn't being threatened, is there a way that we can create room and honor what people are needing? And if we need something, to be able to ask for it or figure out how we can take care of ourselves without getting really angry and upset that not everybody is viewing things the same way or needing the same things as we are. I hope this finds you well. I hope you're finding some comfort. We will get through this. We're all doing a great job. There are some beautiful things that have happened during this time. Is it possible that this is a challenging time and there are some gifts? Again, can we hold both of those things together? If there's anything that I can do to support you, if any of this resonates with you, if you're feeling like you need some support, you need someone to talk to, I work with clients individually. I do therapy and coaching. Please feel free to reach out to me at unapologeticallysensitive.com. If you want to shoot me an email, it's unapologeticallysensitive@gmail.com. You can go to my website, click on this episode for the show notes. Just sending blessings out to each and every one of you. Thank you so much for all of your support. I really do appreciate y'all. Remember, sensitivity is nothing to apologize for. It's our superpower. Have a blessed day.